Welcome to the first episode of SharePoint Things. My name is Austin Gainey, and I'm a BI and SharePoint consultant with Key2 Consulting, as well as a big fan of the hit series Stranger Things. Today I'm going to cover how you can utilize Microsoft PowerApps to customize out-of-the-box SharePoint online forms. These forms can then be used to take down corrupt secret government projects, destroy cars with telekinesis, as well as cut through the fabric of space and time itself to parallel realities of existence. Okay, I might have embellished just a bit on that last part, but PowerApps integration with SharePoint Online can absolutely help bring your SharePoint forms from the clutches of the Demogorgon and into a bitchin' solution for your users. So why use PowerApps to customize your forms? All can be done in the browser without having to write traditional code such as C# or download another app such as InfoPath. When you publish your changes, the form is embedded within the SharePoint list for use by all of your users. In PowerApps, you can also review analytic reports, create conditional formatting, and connect to other data sources. With that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at a demo. So here we have our Hawkins Research SharePoint online site. It's 35 years later, and 11 has taken over the corrupt government research facility and is now in charge of helping other people like her that have powers find their way through life. And one thing she's wanting to do is create a great list of all the different types of waffles that exist in the world. So in this list we have, as you can see, our columns. And these columns all have their own data type. Some are just text, like a description or multi-line text. We also have a rating column. And if we look at that, this is a multiple choice. So we have our different ratings of waffles, whether it be bitchin', lame, or good. We also have how many waffles there are per package, and then also a picture of that specific type of waffle, which is in the form of a hyperlink. And so when we either when we want to add a new waffle item, this is the form that SharePoint Online shows us. And as you can see, it does the job, but one thing it doesn't do is it doesn't display our picture. And it's just a little boring, to say the least. So we want to spice this up. We want to utilize PowerApps integration with SharePoint to just make this visually more appealing at first. So how can we do that? Well, when you're in your SharePoint list, if you look at this tab right here, we can create and access the PowerApps Studio by hitting Customize Forms. And this is the PowerApps Studio. Now there's a lot to look at here, and some of the most important things are, here's your tree view. And this is important to get yourself familiarized with. And so one thing we have here is the form screen. Now this is the actual entirety of this area here, what they call the canvas. So your screen is what all of your elements live on, essentially. And then we have our form. Now let me resize this a little bit to kind of show you the difference between the screen and the form. So the background here, what this is all residing on, is the screen, but my form is my actual attributes and fields that are coming over from my SharePoint list. So just like in our list, these are our column titles. So waffle, style, description, rating, waffles per package, etc. So if we split this out, each element is what's called a data card. And we can these are very powerful because in each data card, we have these different elements. So we have the actual value, we have a key, we have, is it visible? And for each element, we can control all these different attributes. And on the right here, we can also see the properties for each attribute. So we can change positioning on the page, on the screen. We can change colors and borders. We can make it visible, make this card visible or not. And as you can see, you can also click on each element. So I can go in and change the text that's in here, or I can resize things. And so we want to come in here and make our form look better for the users. So first thing we're going to do is I want to give this form a background, give it a little more pizzazz. So what you want to do is, like I did here, let's click on, and I use this to really make sure that I'm editing what I want to edit, because once this gets busy here, you can definitely accidentally click the wrong thing, and it's sometimes hard to tell where you're at. So I always like to, if I'm gonna edit a certain thing or even resize something, come over here and just make sure I'm clicking what field or attribute I want to edit. So let's give this a better background. Let's give this a better background, and that'll help kind of be a first thing. So as you can see over here, we are in our screen. We're not in the form. I've got an image that I want to use as a background. And all we have to do is open that in here. And what it's going to initially do is set it to fit. But what we want to do is it be the whole background. So we're going to change that to fill. And as you can see, this is already looking a little bit better than just the plain white out of the box. Now let's give it some more context at the top here. So what we can do is come into insert, and as you can see, we have all these different controls on up here. And so we can insert, this is a simple way to do this, insert a rectangle shape. And as you can see, that gives us a rectangle, and I really like the sizing on this and the formatting. It's very simple. It snaps into place on the edges here. And so let's bring this to the top, kind of give us a header area. And let's change the color of this. So just like a lot of Microsoft products, you've got the home screen and the home tab up here in the ribbon. And just like Microsoft Word or other things, we can change the font or the color of things. So let's change the fill color to maybe a dark gray. We can always play around with that. And then we also want to call this screen something when a user clicks on it. So let's insert a label, and let's call it waffle details. And so as you can see, kind of like in Microsoft Excel, you have this function box, and anything that we put in between the quotes is going to display. So waffle details. And let's I think that's too small, so let's go to the home tab and make our font, let's just say 24. And like I said, as you can see, when I move this, it's giving me really good orientation lines of, well, that's dead center to how big the form is. And so you can play around with this. You can also come over here and orientate it however you want inside that box. I think that looks good, so we'll leave that. Let's make it semi-bold and italic. And then let's also add, just for a visual aid, let's add a cool icon out of the box. Let's see, something good. I like this one. Kind of a Stranger Things-esque looking symbol, I think. And so, as you can see, I can click on each element. I can resize the element. I can do all that. So that's really great to help with. You're not having to code or worry about the sizing on the page. It's just drag and drop. You make it how you want it to look. We can change the color of everything. Let's change this to kind of an Eggo yellow, if you will. And so now it's already looking a little better, don't you think? And so let's reformat these fields a little bit. Let's change the sizing of them because we don't need it to be this wide. And so let's keep this where it's at, but oops. Let's, what you can do is reshape the whole size of the data card. And so that's gonna give us our style here. Oops. And then description. Now, our description is only showing as a single line of text right now. But if we come over here, as you can see, I've selected the text box. And in mode, you can see it's set to single line. If we change that to multi-line and then stretch our box out more, we give us nice room for whatever size description we need. Also, you can put things on a same row. It's real intuitive of when you resize things, it will move another element on the same row as you can see. So we can put waffles per package. We also have our waffle picture URL. And so in a minute, I'm going to show you how we take that URL and actually display a picture from it. And that way we can always see a picture of the product we're looking at back when we save this back to our SharePoint list. Now we have this attachments card that comes with this. And if this makes sense in your solution, you can leave it. But in this example, I don't really need it. So you can either delete it using the delete key. But I always like to make sure to, like I said, to come over here, click on what I know I want to edit, and then I can right click and hit delete. And so now, let's go back and click our form. So now you can see we have our form edges here. And let's give it some more space. And some more formatting. Let's make this look a little better. Let's change where it says waffle style. Oops. Let's change waffle style. Let's change that to white. I think it shows up a little better with that blue black background. Let's change this to white. Let's change all the headers to white. Okay, and so we have this URL for a picture, but we want to display that whenever a user clicks in the list or edits a list. But we still want to have this field so that when someone creates new, they can put a link to a picture of the product, of the waffle that they want. And so how can we accomplish that? Well, as you can see, let's click our form over here. This is our form border. So this is just blank screen space that we can use. So what we want to do is go to the Insert tab, come over to Media, and select Image. Now what's nice is we can drag this image element anywhere we want. And so let's make this bigger. And now, as you can see, it's kind of just getting bigger or smaller to scale. What we want it to do is really fill up an entire area in our screen here. So if we are selected our image field, we can come over here to Image Position and select Fill. Now, when we stretch this out, it's going to line up nicely with our header up here, and we can extend it all the way down here. Now, this isn't wired up yet, to read our URL here and display an image. What we need to do that is tell it to look at that URL, but then display a picture, because that URL is a .png or a .jpeg file, whatever your picture format is. And so what we need to do is we need to look at this data card waffle picture. So let's find that data card. Here it is. And the important part here is data card value. So let's rename that something a little more friendly. So we can right click and hit rename, and let's call this photo URL. Okay. So now in our image tab, if we go to function and we type in that friendly name that we just created, and then hit dot and select text, voila, there is our beautiful 10 home style waffles, totally 11 approved. And as you know, the picture came with a white background. That's not important. You can, in your solution, you can get a prettier picture of whatever you're trying to display here, and then incorporate this background a little bit. But as you can see, this already looks a lot better. Let's see, we can drag this down a bit, picture bigger. This already looks better, in my opinion, and just more user-friendly, and you can tell what's going on a little bit better, and more professional and appealing to potential customers or users when they go to click a form. So now, how do we get this back to SharePoint? How do we take this customized form? We like how it looks. What you do kind of want to avoid, unless you're okay with it, is any scrolling in your screen. So what I'm going to do is actually shrink the header a little bit. And maybe make this guy a tad smaller. And then I can pull my picture up. And then pull my form up a little bit. And there we go. It got rid of the scroll bar. So when you're in this mode, when you're in the PowerApps Studio, you don't have to publish this back to SharePoint to see how it would react or perform on screen. You can actually go up here in the ribbon and click Preview the App. And as you can see, it gives us a fully interactable version of what our form is going to look like when it's published back to SharePoint. And we can change all these things, and as you can see, this header out of the box comes with like a on hover change color detail. We won't get into how to change that, but it's essentially just over here, hover color. Here, you can change it right now. So now when we hover, it does white. So we're in the PowerApps Studio, we're done with this. We want to deploy this back to SharePoint. So all we need to do is hit back to SharePoint, save and publish. Now, with SharePoint Online, I've noticed that when you make that transition of saving your PowerApp form back to the SharePoint site, you definitely want to refresh, and hopefully that was enough. But sometimes you got to open one of these. So click an item. Nope, it did it. So as you can see, our new updated form looks great. And so this is the view mode because I just clicked the item. And now we didn't put any conditional formatting into this. This is just I wanted this first episode to be about how to just visually make things look a little bit better and maybe wire up a picture. But in future episodes, I'm going to show how we can break out. So if this is view, we can break out the edit screen to show different fields, maybe hide certain fields. And then also on the new screen, as you can see when we hit new here, we have the space that's left in the form for the picture. But once we fill out all these things and hit save and provide a waffle picture URL, then once we see it in the list and click view, it'll show up like this. But in a future episode, I want to show how we can split those into 3 different screens and also wire up some conditional formatting to show how we can make this even more functional and efficient for your team or your users.